So the other day, Sayadaw explained on what is a yogi. Sayadaw explained from both theoretical and practical aspects that yogi is a person who possesses 3 stages of viriya. So the 3 stages of viriya, the first one, initial effort, the second one, stepped up effort, and the third one, effort stage by stage until one reaches one's goal. So a person who is endowed with these 3 stages of viriya is called a yogi. And it is very important for someone to have effort in the course of practice, especially in the beginning of the practice. Yogi needs effort in order to overwhelm, in order to dispel laziness. So viriya, effort, has the quality to fight laziness because the tina mita can be overcome with effort. Effort is the overwhelming force in order to drive out tina mita, sloth and torpor. So in order to drive out tina mita, sloth and torpor, one must assert effort because effort is the overwhelming force. And also another kind of force is necessary in order to drive out tina mita. It is vitakka, aiming, one of the jhanic factors. So vitakka, aiming, one of the jhanic factors, is the opposite of tina mita. That's why in order to drive out or dispel tina mita, 2 forces are needed. The first one is effort, viriya, which is the overwhelming force, and vitakka, aiming, which is the opposite of tina mita. So in order to explain practically, the whole body is the object of meditation. So in the whole body, there are objects which are arising, which are obvious. So these objects must be noted. In order to note the presently arising object, one needs to aim or direct the mind towards the object. So this aim or directing towards the object is vitakka. And also, one needs to put effort so that the noting mind will reach the object of meditation. So, in other words, effort is the propelling force, pushing the mind towards the object. So every time one notes the object, 2 factors are necessary. These 2 factors are aiming and effort. So when the yogi is able to note with aiming and effort, then the mind will not be contracted, but the mind will blossom and open. So when the yogi exerts effort, then the mind will not be cold, sluggish, slack, but the mind will be active and alert. In this way, tina mita is overcome. Tina mita is overcome with these 2 factors, aiming and effort. So the person, the yogi, who possesses 3 stages of viriya is called as yogi. And today, Sayadaw will explain more in both theoretical and practical aspects, and Sayadaw will explain why it is necessary to exert effort and what are the bad consequences one can have in life and also in the mind if one does not exert effort. So the power of viriya is that it doesn't give way to kilesa such as tina mita. So viriya doesn't give any chance for tina mita and other defilements to enter into the mind. That's why viriya can block the path of defilements. So it is very important that one must make use of viriya. So that's why it is said in the text that it is a must, it is necessary, it is essential to put effort. So when something has to be used continuously, it means that you have to make use of it every single second. In the same way, one should exert effort every single second, moment by moment. If the person is not able to exert effort every single second, moment by moment, then the mind will be cold, sluggish, and slack, and thus laziness creeps in. Laziness as well as other defilements creep into the mind. Lack of effort. So, lack of effort, there will be defilements coming into the mind. So, the mind will not be pure, clean anymore. So, unwholesome mind will replace the wholesome mind. And then the ordinary greed, at times ordinary greed can arise, and at times there will be extreme kind of greed. There can be selfishness, there will be hatred, aversion, grudge, there will be delusion, unclear, there will be doubt, uncertainty. So these unwholesome states will overwhelm the mind. When these defilements or pollutants overwhelm the mind, then the mind will be unclean, it will be polluted. When the mind is unclean and polluted, it will be rude, gross, burning, suffering, and disgusting. So these are the bad consequences when one fails to exert effort. Then the mind will be slack, cold, and all these unwholesome states will torture the mind so that the mind will be rude, gross, burning, suffering, and disgusting. So when the laziness attacks the person, then the defilements, all kinds of defilements will enter the mind so that the mind will become low standard, inferior, and weak. When the mind is weak and have no strength, then when one encounters desirable objects, there will be greed, craving. The mind is very quick to respond. The mind has very quick response whenever he, she finds desirable objects the mind will become greedy. And when one comes up with undesirable object, there will be hatred, aversion. So greed, aversion, hatred will overwhelm the mind. And nowadays there are many problems such as tension, stress, and depression, which are unsolved and uncured. And there is a lot of confusion, a lot of problems ending up. So these are the bad consequences that can arise when one fails to make use of effort. So during the practice, when one puts effort in order to note the presently arising object, the mind will not be cold or slack. Instead, there will be courage in the mind. The mind will be brave and courage when one is able to put effort. So when there is courage, there is no chance for inferior mind, low standard mind to arise. So with effort present, this inferior mind or low standard mind has no chance to arise. So the mind becomes developed. So making the mind from inferior to superior, making the mind from weak to matured, it is called bhavana. So without effort, the mind has no strength. The mind is weak. So making the weak mind too strong, to make the mind from inferior to superior, to make the mind from weak to strong, is called bhavana. So viriya can make the mind alert, active and warm. So having viriya, having effort present, then kilesa, defilements, have no chance to arise. So effort does not give way to kilesa to arise. Effort does not give way, does not accept, but repels the kilesa defilements. So having viriya present, the path of wholesomeness opens, the path of unwholesomeness are blocked. So having viriya present, the defilements such as sloth and torpor, laziness, has no chance to arise because viriya does not give way or viriya does not accept these defilements. So in this way, viriya blocks the path of unwholesomeness, and sati follows. There will be mindfulness. When the yogi exerts effort so as to be able to note the object, when the yogi exerts effort so that the noting mind will reach the object of meditation, then the noting mind sticks to the object of meditation. When the noting mind sticks to the object of meditation, then there will be mindfulness. It is called satipatthana, firmly established mindfulness. So this sati, mindfulness, protects the mind so that defilements cannot enter into the mind. So in order to prevent the mind away from the defilements, one needs to put effort. If one is able to put effort, there will be mindfulness. When mindfulness arises, the mind is guarded or protected away from the defilements. When there is sustained mindfulness, the mind does not go away from the object, the mind does not scatter, or there will not be distraction, so samadhi, concentration, develops. If there is one noting per second in 1 minute, there will be 60 times mindfulness and concentration. In 5 minutes, there will be 300 times of mindfulness and concentration. So it is called bhavana. Bhavana means developing the wholesome mind, cultivating the wholesome mind. So with having bhavana, the mind will become from tender to matured, from inferior to superior, from weak to ripe and matured. So, making the mind matured and strong, it is called bhavana. So one should exert effort so as to develop the mind and the knowledge, so that the knowledge and the mind will become matured. So if one doesn't know that one should exert effort in order to make the mind matured and strong, then the person is easygoing, not wanting to exert effort, lazy. What will happen to the person? You can imagine what will happen if one does not exert effort, but stay easygoing, not exerting effort, lazy and sluggish. So if the person is like that, then there will be defilements, kilesa defilements, arising by leaps and bounds. So apart from sleeping hours, from the time one wakes up until one goes to bed, there will be a lot of defilements arising one after another if the person is lazy, sluggish, not exerting effort in the practice which can make the mind and knowledge matured and strong. So if that happens, the mind will not be noble, the mind will be inferior, tender and weak. So when the mind is weak, it has no resistance when one encounters objects, good and bad objects. When the mind does not have spiritual resistance, then there can be many problems arising. So that's why it is important to exert effort. One needs to initiate the effort, putting effort to note the presently arising objects, such as rising and falling of the abdomen. Every time the abdomen rises, every time the abdomen falls, one needs to cultivate effort and mindfulness so that the mindfulness will gain momentum. So it is called bhavana. Bhavana means to make arise. So to make arise this wholesome mind is called bhavana, to make arise. And vardhana means to increase the wholesome mind so that the mind will become developed and the mind will become from tender to matured, from small to big. So the mind becomes matured and also the knowledge becomes matured. That's why one should increase this kind of wholesome mind. That's why in it said that Attano Sandane Puna Puna
Citta Puna Puna Janeti.
Citta Puna Puna Janeti. It means that Sandana means like a current. So seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, these phenomena are arising continuously like a current. So in life, these physical and mental phenomena, nama rupa phenomena, are arising just like a current. So in a current stream of nama and rupa phenomena, one should cultivate effort so that wholesome mind will be cultured. One should put effort so that wholesome mind will be cultured and developed. In order to do so, one should put effort so as to be able to note the presently arising object. So when there is effort, there will be sustained mindfulness and the mind will be calm and collected. So in this way, Viriya, Sati and Samadhi will be present. When these three factors, Viriya, Sati and Samadhi, effort, mindfulness and concentration are at present, the mind will become strong. So when the mind is strong, even though at times laziness creeps in, but the yogi is able to note away the laziness, and the laziness is dispelled in no time. So in this way, yogi overcomes difficulty, so the yogi becomes more courageous. The yogi comes to have more courage because she has overcome the difficulty. So at this stage, step up effort in order to drive out the laziness has arisen. So at this stage of step up effort, the yogi becomes more courageous and brave. Yogi has more courage and bravery. And when the yogi encounters unpleasant sensations such as pain and ache, if the yogi does not note the pain and ache, but if the yogi keeps on moving, shifting the position, then the yogi cannot overcome this stage. But instead, when pain and ache arises, if the yogi notes in a very bold manner with effort on these pain and ache, later on the yogi overcomes this stage. So when this pain and ache arises, if the yogi does not put effort but flinch back, take it easy, then the yogi does not overcome this stage. Noting this pain and ache with effort, yogi overcomes this stage. When the yogi overcomes this stage, yogi becomes even more courageous because she has overcome the difficulty. So after overcoming the difficulty, yogi can even challenge the pain. Yogi can even challenge the pain and difficulty. Okay, whatever that comes, I will note. So in this way, yogi gains courage. And his or her mind becomes quite matured and developed. So the mind becomes from small to big, from tender to mature. That's why Bhavana has developed. Bhavana means to increase from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3. So increasing this wholesomeness is called Bhavana. So the effort alone, one moment of effort is not strong enough, but if you exert effort over and over again from moment to moment, then the momentum of effort builds up and the effort becomes strong. The effort becomes strong amazingly. So when this happens, when the mind is strong, even though one comes up with good and bad objects, even though one comes up with desirable objects, greed cannot arise. Even if lobha, greed arises, yogi is able to note it right away and dispel it. And even though one comes up with undesirable objects, there will not be anger or aversion. Even if the anger or aversion arises, yogi is able to note it and dispel it right away. So in this way, the mind becomes strong. So the mind will not be so sensitive anymore. The mind will not be quickly responding anymore, but the mind is matured so that the mind will be in balance, not having greed or aversion, even though she come across good or bad objects. So in this way, overcoming the difficulty, the yogi becomes courageous, have more courage and bravery by overcoming the difficulty. If one does not protect or prevent the mind with satipatthana meditation, then there will not be mental strength. If one lacks mental strength, one will not be overcoming the kilesa defilements relating to good and bad objects. When the knowledge is not present, when the knowledge is not matured, then the mind is not matured. So when the mind lacks maturity, then the mind does not have resistance when she comes up with good and bad objects. So that's why knowledge and maturity of the mind is needed, so that one have resistance with ups and downs of life. If one encounters ups and downs of life, the mind will not be agitated, but the mind will be balanced and equilibrium as the mind has maturity. So from young age, if one has not practiced satipatthana meditation so as to make the mind strengthened, if she is 25 years of age, the body or the materiality of the person is 25 years old, but the mind stays still tender, weak, and inferior. So if one does not strengthen the mind with satipatthana practice till the age of 50, the body is 50 years old, but the mind stays just 50 years, tender, small, minute, and inferior. If the person does not strengthen the mind with satipatthana to the age of 70, Even though the body is 70 years old, but the mind is still inferior, tender, and small. So if the mind is tender, inferior, and small, lack of strength, then one will be overwhelmed by defilement when he/she encounters good and bad objects. So his or her life will be very low, and his or her life will be down. It will not be uplifted, it will be down. So one should understand that it is very important to exert effort in the practice so that one will develop the mind and the knowledge, so that one will gain maturity of the mind, so that the mind will stay in equilibrium and balance, even though he/she meets with ups and downs of life. So it is very important to put effort so as to make the mind and the knowledge matured, so that one will have spiritual resistance. So that's why in the text, Yogi is defined as Bhavanaya Yukta Payuktataya Yogi. Bhavanaya means mental development practice, the practice to develop the mind and the knowledge so that the mind will be developed, cultured and matured, and also the knowledge will become matured. Yukta Payuktataya means the person who is endowed with 3 stages of effort: initial effort, step up effort, effort stage by stage until one gains the goal. So the person who puts up the 3 stages of effort in the development practice of the mind and the knowledge is called a yogi. So this is how the text explains the meaning of yogi. So today the hour is up, so Sayadaw will continue to explain how the mind and the knowledge comes to a completion or a fulfilling state. Sayadaw will continue tomorrow.